Hi friends. First of all, if you can hear really loud partying going on in the background, neighbors a couple houses down are having a super big party in their backyard. Don't blame them, the weather is amazing right now. So anyways, if you can hear that, that's what that is. Enjoy, I guess. So today's video, as usual, is my September wrap up and my October TBR. I'll be real, I didn't read a ton in September. School is really starting to ramp up for me. And as a result, I've been a little bit burned out, a little bit stressed, just busy, a lot on my mind. I've also been interviewing, trying to get my first job at a library. So that's been a whirlwind for me. Just a little bit. I mean, it's not that intense, as you can imagine, but I am just trying really hard to find a job doing that. So, I don't want to delay by having a super long intro here, so let's just jump right into it. So I actually only read 5 books in September. I know. We're there. Okay? So normally, fall going into wintertime is when I actually read the most, but we'll see how that goes this year with school and everything. I have, despite this, continued to buy books and check a ton of books out from the library. So, you know, I'm gonna get myself in trouble here. So the first book that I read in September was The Ninth Reign by Jen Williams. Honestly, fucking loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. I don't really feel like I need to do like a whole independent review of it, although I would love to, but I feel like there probably are some on the internet at this point. So I don't feel like I need to add my voice to that. Am I surprised that I loved this one as much as I did? A little bit. I did put it off for quite a while, despite a lot of people saying it's great. And I regret that. So I don't own this like in physical copy, but it's on the trilogy itself is on my list now of ones that I have to have. I did read this on my Kindle, so I'm going to keep reading it. I'm hoping to get to the second book soon. Maybe the beginning of next year, maybe the beginning of 2023, to be honest with you, because I have like other stuff I'm trying to prioritize. And like I said, I just keep sabotaging myself by getting library books impulsively. So, but yeah, The Ninth Reign was amazing. I love it. It's a new favorite series, and I'm hoping I like the next 2 just as much. Won't be surprised if I do, to be honest with you. It was excellent. And then the next book I picked up totally on a whim was The City of Dusk. This is a newer release, and unfortunately I DNF'd this one around 10%. So I started to feel really frustrated by how incredibly slow the plot seemed to be moving right at the beginning. And to be honest with you, it was starting to really bore me. I wasn't really latching on to any of the characters. So normally, even if the plot is slower at the beginning, you know how fantasy books go, like the first 50% of the book is usually on the slower side than the second. Normally, what gets me through is characters. If I'm invested and I like the characters, there's just something about them that keeps me engaged enough that I'll continue reading. But this one, I just didn't care about any of it. I didn't care about the characters. I didn't care about what little plot we were getting. And in just my personal opinion, I thought that the magic system, just the general setup of it, was really generic. People may feel free to disagree with me about that, but I just felt like it was really not that complex, and I was just bored. So I DNF'd it, and I returned it to the library, and ultimately I'm very glad that I got that from the library instead of buying it, because whew. And then I read Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, and I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. It was just okay. For being such a short book, it really moved actually kind of slow. In the typical fashion, like the first 50% of it's just like really a lot of setup, and then the second 50% is really fast paced. Ultimately, I did like this one, but I just felt like it was okay, and I am going to try more by T. Kingfisher and see what I feel, but as of right now, I'm kind of disappointed, if I'm being honest. I feel like T. Kingfisher is very, very hyped up, and I'm not sure why, to be honest with you. It was just okay. So yeah, that's how I felt about Nettle and Bone. I'm going to try What Moves the Dead, but we'll see. If I don't like that one either, then I'm just going to give up. And then I finally got to When Stars Come Out by Scarlett St. Clair, and I gave this one 4 stars. I generally really like this book. I wasn't expecting it to be quite so YA because most of her other stuff that I've read at least is adult. So, you know, it was what it was. I did see somebody on Goodreads. I'll see if I can like insert it, but they did mention like, I feel like this would have been better had these characters been in their early 20s and not 16 and 17. Totally agree. One of my complaints with this book, and one of the reasons it wasn't a 5-star read for me, was all of the characters had wonderful names except for the main guy that's in the book. He has such a stupid name. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know that's probably mean, but like, so there's probably a reason, okay, first of all. But all of the characters have such like unique, I thought like very normal for the most part names. And then our main character, who's the main guy character, is named Shy Savior. And it literally is like his character archetype wrapped up into his name. And it's kind of annoying. I kind of like, I don't know. I just hated it. It seemed like really cheesy when I was reading it, and I just couldn't get past that in terms of him. But I did really like the characters. I really like the story overall. I know there was at least a sequel coming out, and I'm interested to see how that is. Although I feel like this, honestly, you could read this first one, and it's excellent on its own. I don't know if I'm going to read the second book. I'll be real with you. It depends on how much I care by the time it comes out. But I think this was a pretty good read. I had a good time. This got me out of my reading slump for the month. So yeah, because after Nettle and Bone, I was feeling awfully damn tired. And I was like, I just need to go back to something I know I'm going to enjoy and it's going to be a good time. So yeah, it was a good time. And then the last book I read in September, I'm actually technically still reading this. It's the 25th today when I'm filming this, and I'm like 50% of the way through this, so I'm hoping I'll get it done by the end of the month, by the end of this week, and that is A Deal with the Elf King by Elise Kova. And I feel like as long as this doesn't go real sideways in the last 50%, I feel pretty confident in giving this like a 4 or 5 star. I'm really having a good time. I just started this 3 days ago, and I've already read 50% of it, so yeah. Generally, I really like Elise Kova's works. I think I own The Alchemists of Loom. I own like the first one, and it's one of her older series. But I'm like, I really want to get the older backlist for her now because I have had a really good time with her books. Really enjoying her books. Right now, I'm about 50% of the way through A Deal with the Elf King. I'm really enjoying it. I kind of knew I would, to be honest with you. This is another one of those where I'm like, I know I'm going to generally like this. Or at least I think, based on my experience with the author previously. So, and those are all the books I read in September. If I have the energy this week, I'm hoping to get through a couple manga, but I'm just gonna like include them in my October wrap up if I do, because I don't know if I'm gonna get through them this week. I need to film this video now and edit it and get it ready. So it is what it is. I usually do my wrap up like a week before the end of the month. So whatever. Okay. And then in October, I don't know why I'm trying to be so ambitious because do I have break? I guess I do have a week, I think, in October where I'm off toward the end for a week in one of my classes. I have like a fall break before the holiday break. So I do have a week where one of my classes, I don't have to do a whole ton this month. But I don't know why I'm being so ambitious considering I'm going to have like midterms, but I don't really have tests. I just have like project deadlines for my finals. So that being said, I am just being ambitious for October. So I want to talk about a couple of the books that I want to read. Some of them, I have them here. Some of them are purchased books recently and won't be surprising to anybody. And then some of them are library books and just kind of ones I picked up on a whim. So we'll see. Last month I got a couple library books and then ended up kind of like reading the first couple chapters and deciding that I didn't want to keep reading them. So I didn't really count them as a DNF because I really barely read them. And in fact, there was just one book that I did that with, and it was the first binding. Yeah, so I should have done more research. This is on me, okay? First of all, nothing against the author or anything like that. Anybody who loves this book, I've heard pretty good things about it, which is why I picked it up. I should have done a little bit more research, though, because it has been compared in the way the story is to like a non-Western version of The Name of the Wind is how it's been basically explained. And I would have known this had I even like bothered to read the synopsis or like really any of the blurbs on the back of the book before I picked it up, but I didn't. And quickly realized that that's what it was. It's like a story about stories. And I didn't really like The Name of the Wind. So obviously I started reading this one and then decided I don't want to read this. But yeah, I didn't technically like count that because I barely even freaking read it. Read like 2 chapters before I was like, I think I'm going to take this back. So got that from the library. Wasn't the biggest fan. Decided I didn't want to keep reading it, but I'm not counting it. Because that's on me. That's just a bad fit, and I would have known that had I looked into the book. Okay, so getting into the books that I want to read in October, let's just start with the obvious one, because it came out earlier in September. I am probably like one of the few people here who haven't fucking read it at this point. And part of me is dreading it, because I'm worried I'm going to be confused. Part of me is like, okay, you should get on with this because I want to do a review is what it comes down to for this book. And that is Nona the Ninth. And this is looks like the same length as Harrow. And it's like almost 500 pages. And I'm scared, y'all. But I want to read this in October because I feel like, you know, perfect for spooky season. The cover's already messed up because I touched it with my greasy ass hands. Yeah, not a whole lot to say about this. I am excited. This was one of my most anticipated releases this year, so I'm planning on trying to get to this like probably next, to be honest with you. Once I finish the deal with the Elf King, I'm probably going to pick this up and just try. If I have to tandem read this with something else to keep myself from like giving up, then I will. It's not that I'm anticipating this being bad. It's just, it's always so much packed into these books that it takes me forever to read them, because I'm like overwhelmed by the amount of detail and the stuff going on and the amount of people in these stories. So yeah, this I'm probably going to spend like the entire month reading, but I'll hopefully read it in tandem with other things so that I'm like not DNFing, because I know I'm going to go slow on this baby. That is the only book I plan on reading in October that is a purchased book. I do have quite a few library books that I'm trying to get through, and they're all pretty short because I knew I was going to want something short and easy. So I did pick up The Lathe of Heaven from the library. This is by Ursula Le Guin. It is one of her shorter novellas, and I can't wait to read this. It's like not even 200 pages. So y'all probably read this in like 2 days. I'm just going to read you like a little bit of the synopsis. This is an older book. So this is: in a future world racked by violence and environmental catastrophes, George Orr wakes up one day to discover that his dreams have the ability to alter reality. Interesting premise. Can't wait to read this one. And then I also picked up The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle. I read Summerlong several years ago by this author and really loved it. Like, I think about that book all the time. And if it's anything like that one, I know this is like one of his more popular works. Obviously, this is the story that the movie and everything has been adapted from. Every time I see this at the bookstore, I think about buying it because I want to read it. I've wanted to read it for years. And then when I saw that they actually just had it at the library one day when I went to just browse, I was like, you're coming home with me. I'm finally going to read this. So if this is anything like the other works that I've read by him, it's going to be atmospheric and I'm going to love it. And then, as I mentioned, I'm also going to read What Moves the Dead. This is another short book by T. Kingfisher. It's, I think, her newest work. Yeah, so this is a gripping and atmospheric reimagining of Edgar Allan Poe's The Fall of the House of Usher. So, weird fact about me. I mean, it's not that weird. Plenty of people, but I really like Edgar Allan Poe. One of my favorite memories growing up, we went to see, for one of my school field trips, we went to see this like play. It was basically plays of Edgar Allan Poe's stories. And I still remember how much I loved it. Poe is definitely like nostalgic for me in some ways because it reminds me of being like an emo teenager, and I was really into his work. So I'm hoping that I like this one. Hopefully it's not quite as mid as Nettle and Bone was. So we'll see. And then I also want to read How High We Go in the Dark. This is another one about climate catastrophe, and so is The Lathe of Heaven. So it depends on how much I can tolerate. This book is deceivingly short. I think the deckled edges make it look like it's longer than it is. But yeah, I've already gotten one renewal on this, so I have to get on this. I have to. That one, I'm not like 100% sure I'm going to get to this month. Honestly, it depends. And then one other thing I did pick up from the library, the Sailor Moon Eternal Edition. I got the first one. I was surprised that this was at the branch. Normally, you know, I'd have to put this on hold, but okay, so weirdly, I did not grow up consuming Sailor Moon in any shape or form. I have a cousin who is like maybe 10 years older than me, and was very into anime growing up, and they are the only family member I had that was into anime, as I was. But because of our age difference, you know, she was into it much more than I was at the time. Anyways, so Sailor Moon is a lot of people's like comfort series, but I never got into it. And I want to see what all the hype is about. I know it's older, but I just want to see. I want to give it a try. I'm going to be open-minded going into this, but I picked it up because why not? Why not try, you know? I guess I can just say basically all the manga that I wanted to read back in September and didn't get to, which is like a lot. And then I bought some more, so we'll see. I do have 2 other books, but I don't know if I'm going to get to them in October. Those are The Dispossessed by Ursula Le Guin. And then I also picked up The School for Good Mothers. This one is something that I'm going to try the same thing where I'm like reading a chapter or 2 and seeing how I feel, because when this came out and people were talking about it online, I thought it sounded really interesting, but I think it's lit fic, so I don't really know if it's for me, you know? So I'm going to try it out, probably sooner rather than later, so that I can return it if it's not for me and not hold on to it for a whole month when somebody else could check it out and read it. Those are the books that I'm going to try to get to in October, along with hopefully some of the manga that I still have to read, but it's very ambitious. I'm probably not going to read all those. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comments what you're planning on reading this fall, and if any of these are also on your TBR or on your backlist. I would really like to know. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye.